to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, all you Road to Growth listeners. Today, I am lucky enough to have Alex Montoya on here. I mean, everyone talks about. I've had so many people on this platform right here that talk about, oh, this struggle right here. I mean, you're a laundry list of struggle, but the funny thing is, your achievements are even longer. So it's great to have you on the podcast here and hear your story. Thanks, Alex, for being on here.
Thank you for having me.
So we were kind of talking about before. I mean, you're a motivational speaker, author, writer. I think it's 8 books, I believe, and you're writing many more. And your story is one of transferring over here, moving here to the United States at the age of 4 from Colombia. And the kicker is that you were born with basically maybe not all the limbs that that a lot of other people might have had. So you're coming from a farther place down than most people, and you're able to get to where you are right now. Can you, walk us through your story of getting here and kind of who you are, Alex?
Sure. Well, I'm Alex Montoya, and I actually have faced adversity from literally the first moment when I was born. I was born in Medellin, Colombia, which is in South America. And when I was born, I had a birth defect that rendered me without 3 limbs. So I was born missing both of my arms and my right leg. I wear 2 prosthetic arms that allow me to function, as hands and as arms. I moved to the United States when I was 4 through the Shriners hospitals in order to be able to go to school and receive medical care and receive prosthetics. But you're right. I certainly had a farther place to come from than most people in terms of geography, and a farther place to come from in terms of life because I was born with instant challenges. I was born with instant adversity, and certainly had to learn how to overcome those, first of all, just to survive.
Were your parents kind of into mindset, or how did you learn? Because you seem like a very positive person. From our interactions, very positive, and I could see people that are, especially even at a young age, saying, "Why me? Why me? Why me?" Did your parents help you out with that? How did you come to the idea of being positive about things?
Sure. Well, first of all, I have been blessed with a family that was very positive and also was very strong in faith. Now, my biological parents, both of them were very strong in faith and very much taught me from the time I was a baby, the time I was a toddler, to appreciate life, to enjoy life, that they were going to have the same expectations as me, that's as for me that they have for any of their other kids. When I moved to the United States, I actually moved in with my mother's sister, who was my aunt. And so she and her husband, my uncle, really became a second set of parents for me. They raised me, and they very much instilled in me kind of a stronger mindset that we are to have the highest expectations for you. They quickly saw and they quickly told me that even though I had a physical disability, that they could tell that mentally I was okay, I was good, and that I loved to specifically communicate and interact with people. And they said that's going to be your strength in life. People are going to meet you, and this really applies to so many people. People meet you, and the first thing that they are going to see is your shortcomings or your shortfalls, and they're gonna automatically think that life is impossible for you. And your mission, they told me, is to make the impossible possible. So between my biological family, parents and siblings, and then really my adopted family here in the U.S., I like to say that I've had one big family, but all of them very much contributed to making me feel complete and whole, and making me feel that nothing could stop me.
So your biological parents, did they stay down in South America, or were they not making? Okay, that's
Correct. They stayed in South America. For them, that was a country that they that was the only country they knew, and so they chose to stay there and allow me to move as a youngster to move to the U.S.
And I'm assuming you're still in contact with your biological parents?
My father passed on 4 years ago, but my mother is very much still alive, and very close relationship with her and all of my family.
I mean, this is just a random question. I'm assuming there's been drastic changes in prosthetics since you've been a child, correct?
Absolutely. Prosthetics have been one of those things that have developed as the years have gone on. But what's interesting is the arm prosthetics that I wear are connected to me through a strap harness, and the strap harness is connected to a series of cables, and the cables operate the hooks for everything to move. That actually has not changed all of that much. So the same types of arm prosthetics or hooks that I received when I was 4 years old are not a whole lot different than from what I wear now. What really has changed technologically wise and medically has been leg prosthetics. For some reason, that has really been kind of the accelerated growth in the world of prosthetics over the last 3 decades.
So you're growing up, you're in school. How is the interaction going with other kids? Because I know kids can be tough sometimes. I mean, how was that interaction?
When I first got to this country, my aunt and uncle told me, be prepared for the fact that you are going to look different than everyone else, and they're probably going to be intimidated by your prosthetics. It's not something that other people are used to. And so they gave me a mandate. They said, you need to go out there and be the friendliest guy possible, because you need to be the one to break those barriers and be proactive. And they were right. Kids were intimidated. Kids didn't know. They didn't want to say anything offensive. They didn't know, why I had these. And so they kind of stayed off to the side. But once they saw that I made an effort to reach out to them, that I told them it was okay to grab my hand and shake it the same way you would shake hands, or even give me a fist bump, they saw that I was just a regular kid like them. In fact, I have kind of empty holes where the elbows are, that allow me for the arm to move as a joint. And I used to actually hide my friends' candy in there, just to be able to sneak their candy into class, which became problematic because eventually in class I would raise my arm to answer a question. All the candy would spill out. So we all got in trouble. But the kids, certainly those that knew me and got to know me, treated me well and treated me great. As an immigrant, it was difficult moving to the U.S. and learning a whole new language, and learning a whole new custom and really a whole new world. But once I eased into that and just worked hard at that, it certainly got better. There certainly were incidents of bullying. You're right. Kids are difficult. Kids are hard. Kids will bully, and kids will pick out differences. And what I noticed though was the ones that bullied me were the ones that didn't know me and didn't take time to get to know me. And the kids that knew me and really were my friends were the ones that would defend me and would say, "Look, Alex is a regular guy just like us. Like, give him a chance." And that made a really big difference.
So you had basically kind of a group of you that was kind of your own protection, like your friends that would kind of say, "Hey, stay away from some Alex," and so on and so forth. I mean, now I know your adopted parents were very positive and kind of walking you through, "Hey, be aware of this, be aware of that." You're a writer now, you're an author, right? And when I'm thinking of an author, I'm thinking of someone like typing it down, writing it down, right? That had to be a little more difficult, kind of getting into that field. Where did that love come from?
Sure. The great thing is, my aunt, who really became a second mom to me, and I just call her mom, identified with the help of a teacher when I was 10 years old that I loved writing. And in fact, I remember my teacher telling her in one of those parent-teacher conferences, you know, your son is a little bit of a problem because in class he just won't shut up. And unfortunately, he's not too good at math either. But he is a really good writer who has really taken to writing. You need to develop that, and you need to really look into having that be a career for him. A lot of people don't have that kind of direction. And look, it's completely normal to fall into a career. And I've certainly had ups and downs and all kinds of bobs and weaves as my career has gone on. But ever since I was 10 years old, my family has known and directed me towards being a writer. One of the reasons that I consider myself extremely lucky is by being born with my disability and having prosthetics since I was 4. I learned how to do things at the same age that my peers were. So I learned at the exact same age how to just adapt and do things differently. So whereas they were holding a pencil or a pen in their hands, I learned how to grab a pen and use the back end with the cap to be able to use on a keyboard and be able to use to type. I saw that for me, I'm naturally left-handed. I saw that doing it one key at a time, punch, 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 was going to be effective for me. And I learned that number one, things were probably going to take longer for me to do, but that no excuses. I had to find a way to get it done. And I also had to be willing to invest time in practicing writing or practicing typing, knowing that I was going to be slower than most of my peers. But if I really loved the act or the art of writing, that I had to be willing to put in the time to do that.
Wow. So, I mean, how long does it take you to, let's say, write a book or one of your books? One on average, how long would it take you to write a book these days?
So the nice thing is with the writing that I do motivational writing, and I give my stories and my perspectives on different things I've experienced, whether it be what it was like being an immigrant or another passion of mine, which has been running in marathons and doing endurance running. I can write my own story within probably 90 days. My average book is about a 90-day project because I have such a passion and love for it that for me, writing for hours and hours is a joy. If I write for a client and I am doing ghostwriting for them, and there's a lot of interexchanges of drafts, it takes a little bit longer because I'm getting into somebody else's head and making sure that I'm communicating what they want properly. One thing that I always tell people, though, is when it comes to writing, if you can do it fast, if you have a love for it and you can do it quickly, that's fantastic, but you shouldn't rush it. Writing is a process, and there's always editing and there's always drafts. And I always encourage people to write something, leave it alone, and then come back to it the next day. And it is going to look completely different than from what you remember from the previous day. That's just part of the process of it. So again, I'm fortunate that I have the ability to write quickly. But if people don't find that as far as coming naturally to them, they shouldn't worry. The best writing, it's like cooking. The best writing and the best cooking takes some time.
Have you ever looked at the idea of like dictating your writing, or you have someone else write it for you?
It's interesting. I have tried to utilize various forms of voice activated software. Unfortunately for me, I find that it actually slows down the process. It's just a little bit faster for me to type it naturally. And again, anyone can just go based on their personal preference. But knowing that I personally, even though I'm a strong believer in technology and adaptive technology, I personally found that it wasn't a great fit for me. But with that meant that it was going to probably take a little bit longer. So therefore, I had to be prepared to practice and increase my typing speed.
I mean, it sounds like talking to you that, I mean, a lot of the things, because even talking to you, right, I'm going, okay, well, it has to take a long time to type with one hand where you're typing with a pen and putting in there, right? And you're like, oh, no, it's really simple. I have it in my head. I'm doing it. This is all I've known. I mean, so it doesn't really sound like any of the physical, I mean, setbacks have really been any kind of setbacks for you. So where have some of the big struggles been for you on the road to where you are? Where have those issues come arise?
Absolutely. Struggle is something that really is universal. First of all, as a person that has a disability, even just entering the marketplace and entering the workforce was challenging. I can remember receiving many different employment rejections that I knew I was very much qualified for the job, but I could tell based on people's faces when I would walk in for an interview and they saw my prosthetics. I could tell that they were very much intimidated by what they saw, and that they were very much intimidated by what they felt they were going to have to do in terms of accommodations. So that alone was hard. I have a good degree. I did my undergraduate at the University of Notre Dame, and so I knew that I had quite a bit of strong backing behind me. But again, just seeing kind of the expressions on people's faces, or even some questions that were asked during interviews, I knew that you know, it was certainly, they viewed me as an extra challenger, as an extra liability. I have experienced being laid off from places. I've experienced cutbacks, and even as a writer, you're never going to have a total of 8 books and have all of them be smash successes. There are times where I've looked at the different writings or the different pieces that I've done, and I've really had to maintain a passion for what I'm doing because not every one of them has been a commercial success. There's times where I'll go back and read my old writings and see a lot of areas where I wish I would have written differently or written better, and they just didn't do so well for a reason. But I think one thing that really encourages me is to know that, number one, I write as a love and as a passion, and so I don't beat myself up over every failure or every book that doesn't do well. And also, I remember that every book that doesn't do well, or maybe wasn't written too well, is the building block for the next book, and the building block for just making me continually a better writer. That's always the goal.
Now you said love and passion. Is that a love and passion to give back? Is that a passion of actually just telling your story? What does that love, passion encompass?
It's a love and passion for everything, Vinny. It's making sure that you have a love and passion for the art of writing and using words creatively. It's a love and passion for me for either telling my story or telling my client's story, and believing that our stories are important and that our stories need to be heard. But then also just having a love and passion for life and for gratitude, which I hope comes out in my writing and in my speaking. I wake up every day and I begin with a short prayer of gratitude. And I even, will thank God for the arms that I have and the legs that I have, which to some people is odd because I don't have arms and legs. But I'm very, very thankful, number one, for the prosthetics that I have, because without them, I literally could not move around and get about my day. So again, whereas most people see me and they see the challenges, I see what I have, and I see the fact that it allows me to have a life and a career. But also just having gratitude that these challenges have really defined or given me character as to who I am. People will ask me, would you rather be non-disabled? Would you rather have 2 arms, 2 legs? And I say no, which a lot of people are surprised by. Now, would my life be easier if I had 2 arms and 2 legs? Of course, but it wouldn't be who I was. My disabilities and my challenges have shaped me and have really given me empathy and determination and appreciation for the little things. And so that's why I tell people, no matter what your challenges are, no matter what your adversities are, don't be depressed by those or scared off by those. Be appreciative, because every adversity that you have makes you a better person.
Now, you're talking about basically the affirmations, the mindset, the positivity in the morning. And I know you said that your adopted parents basically preached positivity. Were they the ones that basically put the schedule together for you, where every morning, let's look at the positives? Or is that something that you kind of learned over time?
That was something more developed just throughout my personal journey, that I have incorporated more as an adult. I will say probably the greatest influence that my adopted parents gave was they very much gave me a tough mindset, which is more of a no excuses mindset. So you have challenges, you have adversities, you have prosthetics, you have all of these things going against you. They didn't want to hear any of that. They knew what I had. They knew that I loved communicating. They knew that I loved writing. They knew that I loved reading. And they knew that I needed to focus on that. As an example, when I was a kid, back when people would read newspapers, they would bring in the newspaper every single day, and I would be the first one out of all my siblings to be able to read it, because they knew that I loved reading and I loved just kind of soaking in information. So even little things like that kind of helped cultivate my mind and helped cultivate my passion. And they made sure that I knew that the expectation was going to be that I went to school and that I went to a good college, and they really kind of set forth a tough mindset. In terms of having a gratitude mindset and gratitude of affirmation, that really kind of came along more throughout life. But it really also kind of came about through various failures and through various setbacks, because even though I would be down and depressed and have challenges, with each failure, each time that I would survive one of those, and each time that I would get past one of those, it really changed my perspective in terms of, I really learned a lot from that. I really learned a lot from that experience, and so now I'm kind of thankful that I had it. Just to give you a really quick example, one of my books is entitled "See the Good," and what "See the Good" is a theory that I've created that you can take any adversity in your life, any adversity or setback whatsoever, and find a minimum of 2 good things that came from it. And so I started to look at my life, and I started to look at everything from the very obvious things of being born with a disability or some sort of professional setback. And I tried to find a minimum of 2 good things, and generally 5 or 6 things would pop up. Sometimes the only good thing that might come from a setback is just that it makes you a tougher, stronger person. But sometimes you look at things and you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize at the time that if this hadn't happened, this wouldn't be happening. Or if I hadn't gotten this rejection, I wouldn't be in this place now. So I wrote a whole book about that, a little bit more geared towards my personal experiences. But I believe that people can utilize that personally and professionally, that every sort of adversity or every sort of setback will produce at least 2 good things.
So I love that idea. I mean, that's something that took me a long time in life to actually to figure out and understand. And I appreciate every moment now that I see those failures. Now, talking about the failures that you kind of brought up before about not getting the jobs, and you kind of felt that was based on your disability. I know for myself, being in the real estate field, I don't get all the listing appointments that go on. If you start hearing the objections that are coming up, you go, okay, I got to change my scripts. I got to change my basic presentation. Did you start changing your presentation when you're going on these appointments, so maybe you wouldn't get the rejections as much?
Yes, I believe that adapting is one of the most important things that we can do as people and as professionals. So I knew going in that if their mindset or their initial reaction was going to be perhaps to be intimidated by my prosthetics, I knew that I had to make sure that I had the best polished, best prepared presentation possible. It made me better. It made me stronger because I wanted to know. I wanted them to know what I was going to say and be so impressed by it that it kind of made the other doubts go away. So, for example, one of my previous jobs was I worked for the local Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I was in charge of memberships. And given that it was a sales-oriented job, I would do a lot of in-office, in-home visits, and you would find the same thing. You would find immediate looks or expressions of concern or doubt or just being intimidated. In order to avoid that, I practiced my pitch as to why they should join the Hispanic Chamber and why they should join our organization, so much that I could see it in their eyes when they were far more into the things that I was presenting, that they momentarily would forget about what they were seeing physically. I'm not ashamed of my disability in any kind of way. In fact, I'm very proud of it. But I had to be realistic about the fact that I needed them to get past that to really hear what I was offering professionally. And I think it's one of those things where you just need to do whatever you got to do to make adaptions and be able to serve your role even better.
I mean, again, and I've said it multiple times already on this podcast, your story is inspirational, right? And you've talked about it, the positivity you have with the disabilities that you're born with. Now, let's say of a child, right, is listening right now and they have a disability. Maybe they're trying to kind of understand of how to overcome and how to adapt. What kind of advice would you give them?
I would say for any child, every single child and every single youth out there has challenges no matter what. Some disabilities are visible and some are invisible or are hidden. So everyone needs to, number one, just embrace the fact that there is some sort of challenge that they will have or they'll deal with, but to regard it really as a superpower. I love the fact that my prosthetic arms are something that people will take an interest in or ask questions about. I love the fact that it helps me stand out. Being in real estate, that one of the biggest keys in business, period, is to stand out and to be different from everyone else. I have embraced the mindset that my prosthetics help me stand out and help me be a little bit more memorable. So I want kids to really kind of embrace the idea that what they have isn't necessarily a challenge or something to be intimidated by, but they have a real superpower in it. And not only should they expect to do as much as their other peers, but to do even more, and to have the mindset that I am capable of doing even more and exceeding even more than people around me. Because I think once you have that awareness and you have that determination that having a disability gives you, it's really a blessing. It's really a gift. You then have a whole different mindset than 99% of other people.
No, I mean, that's great. And now, let's say hypothetically we're talking to you in 5 years from now, right? And you've written books, you're doing motivational speaking, you have a nonprofit now. Where is Alex going to be in 5 years from now?
Wow, that's a great question. My goal is always to continue writing and continue speaking and continue spreading my message. The wonderful thing is I know that I am learning and realizing things now that I didn't know 5 years ago, and I trust that I'm going to continue to evolve personally and professionally in 5 years. That are things that I can't even imagine what they are right now. I certainly do have a goal of growing the Alex Montoya Foundation, which celebrates stories specifically of disability and immigrant communities. With the fact that in business The world around us, whether we like it or not, is changing on its own. I know there's going to be a whole new level of adapting. Chances are I probably wasn't doing too many podcasts 5 years ago. And I wasn't really promoting books on tape. But the world around me changed. And obviously with the pandemic, the world around me is really changing. So whatever changes are brought upon in the next 5 years, I know part of it is going to be just the world and technology kind of moving me in that direction. I will say this, I'll put it out there. I am hopeful that I can take my story and someday put it in a script form and produce some sort of movie or television feature. That is a goal of mine. But other than that, I really try to just improve day by day as a writer, as a speaker. I know that I'm not the person that I need to be yet. I know that I'm not the person that I'm going to be. And that drives me every day. That drives me every single day to just keep getting better one day at a time.
All right, Alex, I'm a movie buff, so I think you already know what the next question is going to be. In an ideal world, who would you want to play you?
In an ideal world, who would I want to play me? Wow. Well, I really have been impressed by Iron Man and how he really kind of took the prosthetic arms or the superhero arms that he has in that role. So I think he could probably do a good job with that. I don't know. I think aside from that, anybody that could play a smooth, sophisticated Latino man, bring it on. I think we've got a juicy role for you.
There we go. I love it. Well, thank you, Alex, for being on the podcast. I mean, one last thing. So you were part of the Padres Corporation, or you advertised for the Padres before in the past?
I did. So I worked for 10 years within the Padres organization, and that right there is a good example of persistence and determination. One of my main passions has always been sports and athletics, and I wanted to work for the Padres organization really since I was a kid. And I applied for different positions within their corporate office for years and years and years, and got interviews and got my foot in the door, but would always fall short and would always be declined until I finally saw, what do I need to do to improve to make myself someone that they would want to hire. And when I realized that one of the main areas that as an organization they were looking to expand was Hispanic marketing and Hispanic business, that was one of my motivators for working for the Hispanic Chamber. And after a while of really learning that role and learning how I could impact that world, the Padres hired me as director of Latino relations, extending their outreach and their marketing into the Hispanic community of San Diego and Mexico. So it was persistence, it was determination, but it was also recognizing what their need was to allow me to be able to be hired by them. And like I said, it was a great 10-year run with them.
And so that would mean that, right, if you were trying to work for them a long period of time, that you are a Padre fan?
I am a hardcore Padre fan, Friar faithful, and I love living in San Diego.
There we go. I love it. Go Padres. Now, if someone's listening right now and they want to get your books, hear more about you, I know the books can be bought on Amazon. Is that the best place to buy them?
Best place to buy my books is to go on Amazon. If people just literally punch in Alex Montoya books, they'll see all of my books listed there. There are a couple authors, believe it or not, that share my name. So people will have to really pay attention to the covers to see, they're from me. And then if they want to hear more about my message or reach out to me, they would just go on to alexmontoya.org.
All right, perfect. Well, if you're listening right now, make sure not to get the fake Alex Montoyas. Get the real one. Get the book. I mean, inspiration throughout this whole podcast. You can only imagine what you're going to get in the books, what you're going to get in the podcast, what you're going to get from Alex. So thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe, please share, and of course, tell your friends. Thanks, everyone.